Hey everyone, did not get a haircut. My hair is just back in a man bun. I was cleaning the house and I wanted my hair out of my face. Alright, so ever since I recorded the Anthrax review there for Persistence of Time, I've really been thinking about this, and I really wanted to like that album more than I did, and I really want to blame the production on it the whole way around, you know? Like, I listened to it through, I listened to it through this JBL speaker. You know, not to give any names or product endorsements, but these are rather quality speakers, right? You know, most people tend to know that they're pretty quality speakers. You get a really good sound out of them, really good low end out of them too, especially considering, you know, like, I mean, I get a really good low end out of these things. And once again, not a product endorsement or placement or anything. This is just to talk about it. I've got proper monitor speakers, studio monitor speakers hooked up to my computer, which I listen to it through there, and then I've got my big ass house stereo system, you know, which, you know, you see part of the speakers and part of the stereo system going there. So, you know, it's been listened to on a variety of different systems, and on all of them it's like, but it's not an Anthrax thing, because the songs themselves, I think, could have been a lot better sounding if it had a thicker, fuller production on it. The reason why I mentioned this is right after that, I did this out of order. Drew lent me 2 Stormtrooper of Death albums, okay? So I've got Speak English or Die, which was the first album. I haven't listened to that one yet. And then I've got Bigger Than the Devil, which was their second album. I have listened to this one. They didn't have the copyright dates on the back of them, so when I threw them in, I didn't know which one to go with. The reason I mention this is Stormtroopers of Death, defined as a few different forms of metal, one of which is thrash. Hold on here. I am relying on Wiki for a little help with this. Okay, so this being defined as thrash, crossover, groove metal. I saw hardcore in there somewhere. Okay, where I'm trying to get at is the band sounds fuller, thicker, and heavier on here than it did on the Anthrax album. Now, there is about, I think, an 8-year difference between the two, give or take. Different vocalists, a couple different members, etc., etc. But overall, just, it was a production sound. It just sounded, I hate the vocals on SOD, but the music is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And the sound on it is thick and beautiful, you know, coming out of my big, large stereo system. You know, and I'm thinking, I want to say that my issue is with thrash metal. Because on the whole, when I think about this, I love Metallica. I have said over and over again that when it comes to Metallica, I do not know which, but it's either Kill 'Em All or Reload are my favorite album. You know, I just put them both at number 1. I love them both pretty much equally, which I know a lot of people would be like, oh, it's blasphemy. No, it's not. If you actually listen to the albums, it's not. Okay, so, and if you know how music works, it's not. Okay, so anyways, where I'm going with this. I like thrash, but I used to love Lightning. I used to love Master of Puppets, but they're not, you know, Master of Puppets is still a Perfect 10 album, but they're not a go-to album for me. Master of Puppets has never really been a go-to album for me. Neither is the Black Album either. Justice was for a little bit, and then I realized that it just put me in a really depressive phase. Megadeth. I on the whole, like most of Megadeth's early stuff, like everything right up to Cryptic Writings, I for the most part, I think are pretty decent albums. You know, there's some I definitely listen to more than others, and Cryptic Writings is the one I listen to more than anything out of, you know, all the Megadeth albums. But that's kind of, you know, and then I recently got back into Megadeth, so I started buying some of the newer stuff, which hasn't been bad. But the problem with Megadeth compared to, say, Metallica is Cryptic Writings, they got a little different. You know, when you got the Countdown to Extinction and Euthanasia, a little more commercially sounding. But the rest of it all kind of sounds similar, sounds the same, doesn't pop. Like, I'm one of the few people I know that really has issues with Rust in Peace. I really do. But I have the same issues with Rust in Peace that I do with And Justice for All, which is the same issue I have kind of with Slayer the whole way around, which you don't get with Anthrax. You get it a little bit with Anthrax, but with Anthrax it feels a little more put together, more cultured and created. And where I'm going with this is just the slam together riffs. You know, how many riffs can we slam together in a song and just kind of go with it, sort of thing? And I'm not into that, you know? Like, I like songs that have your hooks to them, have your melodies to them, you know, have a little repeat. You know, it doesn't have to have a lot, but it has to have some, you know, something to grasp onto. And, you know, I was looking into this. I decided, okay, let's look up some other thrash bands so I can go with this. And I've listened to Exodus, but they're not a band that I think I've ever heard anything that's really stuck for me, where I've wanted to go out and buy an Exodus album. My buddy Matt, Drew's brother, huge Testament fan when we were in high school. And I don't really ever, like, none of it's, I don't remember ever really listening to any Testament. And what we did listen to, I don't remember ever really sticking all that much either. Creator, I've only recently started hearing some stuff from them. And once again, not stuff I would say that's sticking. Overkill, I know I've definitely heard stuff from Overkill. Definitely know I've heard stuff from Overkill. But, once again, not stuff that really sticks out in my mind. Other bands that are listed on here, which you get out of the US with and whatnot. Death Angel. Sepultura, I remember when they were huge. Dark Angel. Creator was German. I've heard of Sodom. I've heard of Tankard. Sodom I've actually heard a little bit from, but I always hear about them more as black metal than I do thrash. Annihilator from Canada, I've covered Annihilator. Voivod, I'm surprised to see on here. Nuclear Assault, Municipal Waste, Hidden Intent, Cryptosis, yeah. So, some thrash I'm okay with, but I like my thrash when it's a little more structured and organized and a lot less just kind of meh. I also like my metal in general when it feels thicker and fuller and just has that ominous kind of low end kind of going on in it. And I realize this because I'm getting ready to do a review for Sword, and I was noticing this while I was listening to Sword, that, you know, I really like my doom metal. I like my stoner metal. And one of the big things with doom metal and stoner metal, you know, in going back to Black Sabbath, because Black Sabbath being the pioneer of both in this case, is that deep, dark, underlying heavy, not the rapid fire of the metal, not the shrapnel ear piercing of the metal, the deep underlying of the heavy, man. That's just what I really like. And thrash tends to go more the other way, more the shrapnel side of it. And I think when it comes to that Anthrax Persistence of Time album, the problem was not that there wasn't the heavy to it. There was too much air, too much space in between all the instruments. All the instruments were too separated from each other. It didn't sound like a band playing with each other. It didn't sound like a band that was, jamming with each other, working on these songs together. It sounded like a bunch of guys that really didn't want to be in the studio together, kind of thing. And I really hate that my first reflection going into the big four, but not the big two. We got the big two, Metallica and Megadeth. I've done every Metallica album. I've done almost every Megadeth album. And I'm going to be honest with you. Well, I will get into Slayer by request. Oh, man. I think Drew's going to want to be there when I have to do Slayer, so he can laugh his ass off. Because there are some Slayer songs, man, I just absolutely hate. Some aren't bad. There's a couple out there that aren't bad, don't get me wrong. So, listening to a full album will see the change. But Anthrax, I really want to like Anthrax. I do. The production on that album sucked, man. And maybe that's the problem just with thrash in general. Because when you listen to a lot of, even with the earlier Megadeth, I think that was a problem you could hear a little bit too, especially on Killing Is My Business, the original release of Killing Is My Business, So everything was too separated in the recording, and, it makes it feel less full, but even that still sounded kind of fuller than, Anyways, folks, I wanted to get into that one more time. I'm going to possibly start doing this as a regular, or one of the albums will, get me to talk about some other stuff as I go. Let me know what you think. Okay, rambled on long enough. Let me know what you think down below, and we'll get into some more of these discussions as I get into some more of these albums over time here, right? Okay, so that's what this is for. All right, folks. Comments down below on your way down there. If you can hit the like button, subscribe button, bell for notifications, I'd really appreciate that, please and thank you. A couple links worth checking out. Peace, love, take care.